had loads of ideas on making a video, and I've now completely forgotten everything I want to say, and my throat has gone stuffy. Oh, this is a good start. I've noticed when I don't talk and when I just like sit there, I don't scowl, which is strange, because when I communicate I scowl, which is very odd. Maybe I need to retrain that. I got this ironic jumper, but it's not going to be ironic anymore if my breast size were to get any bigger, because then it would not be cool at all, because then I would just look stupid, essentially. Unfortunately, the only stimulants at my disposal would be coffee, and I don't know what else to possibly have to calm down, which makes no sense because it's a stimulant that makes people more prone to nervousness and irritability, which is very annoying. I was thinking of basically making a video of all the potential, I don't know, potential shadow self of all the things the shadow self tells me I should do. And it's not like an actual voice, it's more like just, I guess you could say, the same thought patterns I've had since I was a child. Probably since I was a toddler even. And I'll just try and go through them anyway, but the whole, I think one of them starts with food, because I was restricted with what food I could eat when I was a child, even as a teenager. Like, as punishment, I wouldn't be allowed to have snacks, which is kind of messed up. And this did not stop my brother somehow sneaking food. I don't know how he did this, and I called it drug dealing in a schoolyard, where he'd make money off selling sweets or things like that, or candy bars, chocolate bars, things like that. And somehow he kind of got fat, and I realised, like drug dealers, you should never eat from your own stash, because that's just a bad idea. It didn't last forever, and I don't know about my weight, but I was eating whatever access I had to food. But yeah, even upon visiting, I wasn't screamed at for stealing apples, which is kind of strange because I was told how expensive they were. They can, I suppose, fruit and vegetables these days can be very expensive. That and touching people's special foods, or their work lunches, school lunches, diet foods. I think at one point I started stealing, I wouldn't call it stealing though. I do things like steal frozen berries, like from the freezer. I was even contemplating eating frozen peas, but that was just ridiculous and disgusting. Because why would anybody want to eat frozen pea? Although I think I've eaten raw peas before. They taste rather green. I don't know what the point of this video is. Like, again, but some of the shadow aspects, I guess I built up from years of problematic situations, would be I thought I had no right to speak to another human being, that I did not deserve human contact with other people, because if I did something wrong I would be ignored and punished by my parents and sometimes my entire family, where they just ignore everything I'd say for weeks or days. And when you're a child, days feels like an eternity. I used to be sent to my room, but I never really saw that as a punishment because I was always in my room anyway. I think the worst punishments I ever had was year-long bans from messaging services because I had no phone when I was 15, because I downloaded a game I was too young for without my parents' permission, because they deemed the game too violent, because I downloaded Counter-Strike when I was 15 years old behind their backs, and I somehow managed to convince my parents that it was a strategic game and it would help me. I don't know how I did this, and I was already 15 and the age rating for the game I think was 15, I'm not sure, but the blood was pixelated, which I don't understand, and it wasn't even violent, at least not in, like, it's not violent if your parents are like trying to force you or recommend you join the military, and you know, if you're in infantry, or you basically, I was old enough to even start military training, so like I don't see why avoiding combat games entirely would have shielded me from the pixelated blood and gore, which apparently would have made me into a delinquent, because apparently I have ADHD, therefore, and because I'm female, my brain doesn't process video games in the same way as boys, therefore I'm not mature enough to handle them, and I start acting like a brat if I play video games, which might be the case, but from what I've found out, a lot of my brother's friends, including my brother, including my boyfriend, they would boast, some of these people would boast how they would destroy their PS3s, well, PS2s on purpose, just to get a new one, or, like, throw them out the window. I knew kids who would like throw their controllers across the room, they'd get angry and scream at the computer, they'd chew on their controllers, destroying it, and yet I was not allowed to play video games because of my attitude. So I was banned for a year, but what made matters worse is I'd finished my, actually I might have been 16, I finished my GCSEs, which, if you're American and you're a fan of Harry Potter, it's basically like the equivalent of OWLs, which are the examinations you do in Harry Potter. Like, it's around the same age, if I'm correct, and 15, 16, I think, I'm not sure actually. And I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone for a year, and I had no friends, I had no phone. I tried to invite one girl to my place, and she was really rich. She lived in a mansion and her parents owned a Porsche, and she was like really rich compared to like my family, and when I invited her over she looked kind of shocked and disgusted, but I noticed she did not even try to hide it, and it's one of the reasons why I did not invite friends, because my parents were hoarders, we lived in small places, everything was always in boxes because we were always moving all the time, and by the time we just unpack things we'd be moving house or moving country again. So I spent most of my, I'm not even sure I even had access to a lot of things, several times when I needed them the most, when I was a teenager. I also recall, one house I lived in, around the same age as well, things were going pretty bad financially, I guess you could say. I don't know if it was more unfortunate rather than financial, because I don't think most people would have foreseen such ridiculous things in a first world country. But once there was a rainstorm and there and basically there's a leaky spot in the attic, or the loft, and somehow it rained so much it created puddles and leaked through into the roof, just above my head, basically right where I slept. And the scariest part is I slept in a built-in bunk bed that was very tall and high, to the point I'd bang my head on a plank of wood every single day on the way to school, because there was a fake ceiling or something stupid. This is the problem with rental houses, like, if you don't have your own house, basically. And I don't know how this family managed to live in this house, because they're letting it out for a bit, because this family were living abroad or something, and they had kids, teenage boys, and I don't understand how they've managed to let the whole house fall to pieces. So I was going to school at one point, unable to sleep, because it would rain through the loft, or the fake ceiling, through the roof, the attic, then it would leak. It would sort of like this giant pool of body of water would just pool up and just end up stuck in the roof, or as in our ceiling, the bedroom ceiling, not the. And I think this has contributed to me having nightmares of ceilings and houses and basically foundations crumbling, of all my childhood memories. I've noticed as well that I've had a lot of experiences of floods, or burst pipes, or toilets, as in bathrooms, like leaking almost into my bedroom, things like that, in other houses we've lived in. And it's always annoying, because I swear that once I was extremely I don't want to say I'm the cause of this, because I'm in no way supernatural, but I remember I was extremely angry, extremely angry, and this happened a year or two ago, and I was told to give up on my film project, that it would go nowhere, and that, basically my partner was saying, why do you even care? Why do you even care so much? It's only, the only people who do this are, third worlders and retards and stuff like this, and blah blah blah. And I said to him, there was an opportunity to try this competition, and there so happened to be a prize at the end, and I thought, well, I'd treat it like a job, basically, but also something I loved, and which is, I wouldn't say I love film editing, it's actually very tiring. I managed to, I didn't have much time left. The competition had been open for a months even, and I only had a few days left, so I managed to actually make a trailer within 24 hours, and I was under a lot of pressure because I really wanted to participate and send in my video for this competition thing. And then coincidentally, and there was no weather fluctuations, a pipe burst and the shower started flooding everywhere into other rooms, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Coincidentally, I'd been extremely angry that day, and I was just like, what the hell is going on? And if you believe in feng shui, I noticed that the bathroom shower was basically in the position of career, pride. It was also on the cusp on being in the corner of women, I don't know what you call it, women's empowerment? I forgot, I don't know, I think it would be in the east, no, or southwest, southeast. Yeah, I read somewhere that dreaming of your house flooding, or I don't know about drowning, but dreaming of your house or a house flooding is a sign of going insane, or subconsciously, just in a sense, your foundation crumbling. And I've rarely had this problem, but I've noticed a lot of the dreams coincided with losing a foundation, or simply just maybe, I think, to reimagining traumatic memories. I've had memories of, not memories, I've had dreams of, well, yeah, memories, but in terms of dreams, like these dreams seem to occur, rather traumatic dreams seem to occur when basically my safety has been threatened, whether it's things like parent almost dying, driving, or somebody ending up in hospital, things like that. Normally things are really pleasant, but I'd say, yeah, the original point was I was trying to make this video talking about the shadow selves, or the shadow, or aspects, I guess, where the kinds of things that it advises me to do. And I'm gonna sound like a crazy person here, but the advice I've been given is you do not have a right to talk, you do not have a right to exist, you do not have a right to be nourished, you don't deserve human interaction, you don't deserve attention and care for the things you're good at, you don't deserve recognition, you don't deserve somebody listening to your problems, you don't deserve somebody listening to your successes. You don't deserve help, you don't deserve financial help, you must earn your financial help, you must struggle to deserve help, you must work until you collapse to deserve scraps of help. The other ones would be you're ugly. The reason why I say this is, if I had $1 for every single time a guy, I think, and even some girls have called me ugly, is ridiculous. Like, even in my own family, I've been called ugly, been told my hair's ugly, I've been compared to he's unfortunately ugly, this footballer called Ronaldinho, like the Brazilian footballer, because at one point I got into football, I guess. I didn't have any friends at one point, really, and the only friends I had were like kids in the neighborhood, or I guess you could say my brother, or the neighbor kids, or they'd always be boys. So I noticed in France, girls don't go out to play of a certain age. Maybe they just didn't have time, or maybe their parents didn't want them to go out, because it's quite traditionally patriarchal, I've noticed, France. And during a heat wave, if you're a girl, you can't be dumb, I suppose, to go out, because you'll just end up with a permatan, and you'll feel like crap. Because the French, I don't know, it's not to say they don't like sunbathing, but a lot of French people don't like the sun, they don't like sunbathing, they wear sunscreen, and in my family, everyone's allergic to the sun, apparently. On the French side of the family, like, people go red as a tomato, or end up risking cancer, skin cancer, with genetic mutations. So, well, not everyone is, but so, yeah, I've been called ugly too many times, and the weird thing is, I don't know if it's, maybe it's a form of projection, but I notice usually the outcast kids, usually red-haired boys in school, and one boy for dance, when I was like, it was yet another school, maybe I was in year 6, I was really annoyed because I liked him, kind of, like, I was the kind of kid that I would never go up and talk to people, because I believed I did not deserve to interact with people, but I didn't make myself I don't think I tried to intentionally make myself rude or anything, because I don't remember being rude. I just never talk. Some kids thought I was mute, and then they'd be like, oh, she talks. Well, yes, I do talk, I just don't talk to most people, at least used to as a child. And I think I became a mute as well because I got beaten up in another school so badly for essentially telling the truth, which is I'm not Muslim, I'm Christian. No, I'm not. Like, I don't know, like somehow by telling my background resulted in me being attacked by both multiple times by white kids. Sometimes I got beaten up. I don't think it's because I was seen as a foreigner, and I'm not one. And but then at the same time I wasn't accepted by the minorities because I did not belong to that culture. I knew nothing about it. I actually learnt about it trying to be curious, but it seems curiosity killed the cat, in that asking questions made me look like I was being weird. Like, I just used to ask a lot of why questions, or how. I was just curious about the world, I guess, but I would just make do with whoever I was like forced to sit next to. And I noticed in primary schools in the early 90s or mid 90s, I noticed a lot in maybe one or two schools, the teachers were racist in that they would always sit me with the only Muslims in a all Christian school at a table, but except they'd bully me and stab me with pencils, sharpened pencils. They'd also kick me repeatedly, and then they'd frame me by breaking and destroying things, and the teacher would believe these boys immediately. And then I was sent to the wall, so for entire lessons. So I have memories of basically being excluded for basically being framed multiple times. I wasn't allowed to sit with the nice, quiet girls because I don't know why. Like, I choose to sit next to people I had stuff in common with. These girls who were like this girl I knew, her family were a bunch of hippies, and I don't know if they're Buddhist or something, and I thought they were cool people, and I was like Catholic, Christian at the time. I don't know, I can't remember. My parents have changed different Christian denominations over the years, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I just wanted, in a sense, I just wanted to fit in, but I just wanted also to feel comfortable, I guess. And oddly enough, I don't remember there being in our class any Muslim girls. I think there was one, but she disappeared, I think. I don't know what happened to her. It's like, maybe she was still in that school, I don't know. She was a mute. She could not even talk, like, I don't know, and I don't think she could speak English. It's weird, I don't know. And the only Muslims, they were all boys, and I don't understand because they looked a lot older and a lot bigger than they should have been, which was kind of baffling because in the UK you cannot be set behind if you fail a class, unless of course they weren't from the said country. Maybe you can be older in a class under different circumstances, I suppose, because when I moved back from France, because I lived in France for a few years, they wanted to put me a year below, and I begged the teacher not to, because the year below that I've seen in one school for year 10 instead of year 11, they were all chavs, like, as in, that's like the equivalent of rednecks or yobs or just basically delinquents. I don't know why, but basically everyone born in a year below me, like, were just like a completely different species of people with shaved heads, wearing Burberry clothes, and just being rude, racist, and abusive, and loud. And I was terrified, and I didn't want to be put a year below just because I'd moved from France. Because I had this experience where when I moved to France, here's another thing as well. My whole education has essentially been ruined against my will, because when I moved to France, the head teacher set me below. I was put behind by a year from the very beginning, so I was older than all the other kids by a year, because apparently they did not recognize homeschooling as official, and they said it was legal, and that they needed proof that I had the standard education in the UK, and it made me wish my parents hadn't gone into excessive detail on my childhood. And how I was special, basically. My parents, every time they talk to any other adults involving my education, they'd always talk about how I'm gifted but a troublemaker, and I never understood why, because I was quiet, I never misbehaved. I was told that it's like they were trying to sort of like boast about how special I was, and it really annoyed me, because I didn't feel special because they homeschooled me for a few years, and because I did not show much interest, I wasn't giving eye contact or something. I can't remember. I wasn't even like angry. I'm not the kind of person who just like flips or anything, although the few times I have done it's because of years of maybe not flipping, I guess. And because this is really hard to say, my throat's not getting stuffy. I basically, it's in no particular order, this kind of crap. So when I was 10 years old, I got screamed at. I was told that I'd have to teach myself. So I was essentially basically, I was basically neglected by parents who are qualified to both be teachers. And one of my parents was, I don't know like how much I can say, because like I don't want to like slander these people, but I just hope my family never come across this channel, because if they do, I also have to mention that I have a mother that stalks me on all my blogs, and social media that is not directed or not really suitable for a middle-aged mother to be snooping on what I'm doing, because for all she knows, I could be in my underwear smoking cigarettes, like, which I don't do on social media, but I do not want like my mother stalking me under different social media accounts. Here's the weird thing as well, because even if I change my name, she'd still find me. And I learnt very quickly to change the emails, because I learnt that you're searching all my social media by using any email, any information I'd given her, any number. Yet then she'd claim, even in recent years, say, oh, she forgot the address, yet she sent me a postcard. She said all kinds of silly things, and like things like, oh, what's your number? Like, and I've given my number like so many times out to both my parents and my siblings, the same number that I've kept for years, absolutely years, to the point, but they never call me, ever, except to inform me once that someone is dead, flat out their words. My brother once told me, so-and-so's dead, his words, or died, and I was like thinking, there's something wrong here, because I wasn't even invited to their funeral, I wasn't told about it, I wasn't given any advice or help. Maybe I was expected to sort of hop on free buses, take several hours to get there when I've had no money. I don't know. I wasn't given a time, a date. I've not been informed about several funerals, and I think this sent me into a state of shock a few years ago, to the point I even broke down in front of a stranger at a work agency I was going to, and I don't know why I did this. Like, I don't really like open up to strangers, I don't tell people the truth, but I just decided to be more vulnerable, I guess, once in 2014. And I realized, judging by the attitude of these people, this person, they realized it was not normal. It's not normal. behavior from parents, and I think they're implying, without saying anything, that it was essentially abusive. I never open up to people, and I've put myself, I find, in a very vulnerable position by opening up myself to 2-3 people. Because every time I open myself up to people, I think it's just too much, basically. It's too much, and I'm a bit of a drain, and it's just, it basically just becomes emotional energy vampirism. I'm still not sure what the point of this video is, again, but, so, I think I'm going to, where I pretty much, deactivated a lot of my social media. I don't see the point in it. Again, I don't use my phone. It's rather ridiculous, because when people say, oh, don't isolate yourself, it's kind of hard, because the said people tell me to not isolate myself, then disappear and do their own thing, and that's fine. But I've tried reaching out to other people, and they just nothing, even to meet up by other women usually. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. I actually open up far less, interesting enough, to women than I do to some male friends, which makes me feel like a freak saying this, but like, I have actually opened up. I think I have been more honest. Honest as in just more open, I guess. More revealing of vulnerabilities, I guess. Still left me in a position. This is really hard, because I'm bringing up so many, like, I guess, traumatic memories all in one go, and it's making me zone out, essentially. I'd rather just talk about one of my obsessions. I'd rather just pretend I don't have any emotions and play video games. I wish I could basically be one of those Twitch gamers, not as a career choice, but just as something to do. Just like, I know it's not a replacement for socializing, but for some people it is. Like, there aren't very many people I can just exactly meet, because I'm not in the right social settings. I've put myself in a lot of social situations only to have no responses, or people just vanish from my life, and that's fine. But it's like, I sometimes wonder, like, why did I bother, like, talking to these people? And these people showed so much interest in me, and then poof, they got, like, and I don't think, oh, great, I found a new friend, and they usually have friends, like loads of friends. Like, I've noticed more so with women. I don't want to say all women again, but lots of them have loads of female friends already, like a huge group of friends. And I've noticed, like, I'm just basically a number. Like, I don't mind, or do I mind that? I don't know. I just don't like being yeah, I just feel like I'm always on the outside circle of a lot of friends. Like, when I was in college, though, I did A-level English. I did English literature, and there was one guy, and for some strange reason, I think he felt like, I guess, stigmatized, because, like, women were really, older women, including female teachers, were really condescending towards him. I don't know if it's because he's the only guy in the class, and then he quit. Like, he just one day got mad and he just quit. Like, I think, or maybe it's because he wasn't being humoured. I don't know. Like, maybe he was a pain in the ass. Maybe there's, I don't want to judge. And at that point, when he left the class, I noticed, like, people start sort of, because we're just all women basically, and that's fine. But then I kind of became the butt of all jokes, where the teacher, female teacher, and the students would, well, the teacher would say this more so than me. It also happened, I noticed, in church when I was forced to go to church for a long time, and so I just thought, well, if I'm forced to go, I might as well make the best of it, and I kind of socialized within church settings. I was part of, I guess you could say, a cult. I'm not going to mention it. And again, in this church setting, like the Sunday school, it was basically gender segregated, at least part of it. I noticed that basically in this church setting, which even though is not the same as an English class, they both had one thing in common, is that it was all women, and I became the butt of all jokes, where people would crack jokes about how, like, they'd say things like, don't do, basically, don't do a me, don't be me, and like other snide comments and things like, I know people just, basically I'd have to deal with all sorts of people giggling at me or going out of their way to ignore me as well, and I don't know, I just felt excluded, which it wasn't very nice. Maybe I just didn't have any social skills, but I really did try. I'd go up to people, I'd compliment them on things I found genuinely nice, I'd just be nice to people. I actually think I would have had better luck socializing with women if I basically pretended I was a lesbian or something, because I didn't act exactly gender binary. I don't know, like, but then again, I did act like the average girl. I don't understand, because there was one girl in my class, she would play Final Fantasy games, and she kept exclaiming how she played RPGs and things like that, and I was kind of jealous because I wasn't allowed a game console, and I thought, wow, a girl who has a game console, because back then there was no Twitch, and there were no gamers, there were no playthroughs, and there were no girl gamers. Like, it was not a thing, a girl gamer, like, I didn't know they existed, and I guess I had a lot of common with this girl, and I got rather sad because, like, she actually, not only did we have a lot in common, she actually knew one of my childhood friends from another school I went to, so I thought it would help with bonding. Then out of nowhere, this other girl started acting really possessive and started hanging out with her, but she'd like grab her by the arm and literally drag her off, or she'd turn her back against me, this other girl. And it got to the point where she'd crack jokes and try to get the entire class to sort of ignore me, or even during lunch breaks, or she'd do things like wave at me. I'd turn around and there'd be no one there, and then she'd walk past me, ignoring me. And other times she'd wave at me, and then she'd walk right past me whilst giving me eye contact, and then walk straight to some person that she didn't even know and hug them. Like, people she had less than, like, I knew for a fact they weren't friends, that's for sure. It's like randoms, basically. Very strange behavior. I guess I was gaslit, and I also was invalidated, because at one point this girl, I don't know how she did it, like, I realized that it was just too much, so I just went back to sitting on my own. I don't know, just after a while, like, less and less people talk to me, and I just kind of closed off, and I tried to talk to all kinds of groups of people, even from classes I didn't attend in different buildings. I talked to anyone and everyone, but at the same time I try and do my own thing, and I didn't want to precisely seem desperate or just like impose myself. And the most annoying thing is, I was the kind of girl who could sit alone for hours in a lunchroom or a library, and I felt like I always had to do all the work in terms of socializing. I think I actually burnt myself out. I was drinking energy drinks and coffees, and I felt like my immune system was shot, basically. And then I started falling sick all the time, and then when I started falling sick all the time, some students on social media tagged me as Mr. Lazy out of the Mr. Men character, and I thought that was like very rude and mean, because the students who did this in my English class did not know I had mono, and I didn't. I'll be honest, I didn't know I had mono, but why would I purposely fall asleep in class? I know it didn't look good, but I lost my voice, and it got so bad for months that I made a makeshift whiteboard where I put a piece of paper in a plastic A4, what do you call it, plastic thingy binder cover, and I'd write in marker, like so whiteboard marker and stuff, and I literally had it ready because I lost my voice. I could not talk at all. I had massive glands in my neck, and my skull and all the way down into my armpits had just blown up, and I was really worried. I saw 2-3 doctors and they didn't do anything about it, and I feel like I was, again, maybe I didn't clarify certain things, but my parents could see I was visibly sick, and I think either I did not have the courage to push harder or get really upset, and I think because I didn't get extremely upset to the point of like breaking down, which I should have done, because I'm sure most people would have in my circumstances, didn't believe that I was in so much pain, I guess. Kind of like when I dislocated my shoulder on my birthday and had to continue horse riding during the summer camp thing in France. And the nurse said, "Oh, it's nothing, it's a bruise," basically invalidating my pain. So I just went around with a dislocated shoulder, horse riding and cycling for an entire week. And now that I look back on it, I think like I was essentially invalidated. I was in agonizing pain, but because my face looked, I don't know, blank or something, I could not express how much pain I was in. And I've noticed as an adult that being in a lot of if your parents neglected you, I'm rather annoyed, because like I'm sick of watching videos on this topic, because like a video just came up and I watched it anyway before making this video. Another video on the impacts of early childhood neglect and how a toddler basically start to cry, or show distress within a few minutes of a mother just not giving them eye contact, or looking away, or looking at them with a sort of flat face, completely unresponsive. And I look at photos, and I also look at, when I look at old photos and remember the past, I don't remember my parents ever smiling at me. Like, I'm not, like, maybe I'm missing something. I'm not saying they never did, but even photos, like, they did not smile with me, but then they'd be all smiles with my siblings, like, grinning, and long grinning, whatever, just I don't know. And yeah, I don't know how to feel really about this. Like, it's so easy to go numb, because like, if a child shows emotional retardation or lack of emotional development, most likely the cause is simply their parent was not there for them at all, or they were there for them, but the parent went out of their way to ignore their own child. I remember, I think I was purposely abandoned in a supermarket a few times, and accidentally. I was devastated. I noticed my parents did this as well too. One of my sisters who had autism, when she was about to have a meltdown, or she was visibly under distress, I always thought there was something very wrong, where my mother would start smirking and giggling, saying, "Oh, let's abandon her." And I was encouraged to abandon with my mother in a supermarket when I was 14 years old, my 2-year-old or 4-year-old sister or something. Maybe. I don't know, maybe she was older than that. But from as young as 2 years old, or maybe 4, I don't know. to basically abandon her and make her believe that we'd left her behind in a supermarket. And I brought this up to my partner, and he said there's no way for sure to see if that was really... I think he implied that it was not abusive, or it's just like I was maybe reading too much into it. And then it gets really annoying because, like, what if I'm being invalidated and also gaslit by my partner? It's like, how can I see this is not right? Like, in my gut I knew it was wrong, and I actually felt guilty despite my young autistic sister humiliating me and doing strange things. Because she could not get attention from my parents, she would pull down my pants in public and other very embarrassing things. And I think now that I'm old enough to understand, I basically was the surrogate emotional mother to her, to a child that was 8 years younger than me. So, yeah. And I wrote about this on Reddit and other places, anonymously or under Marson forums, and I was told that I probably have PTSD, and the reason why my siblings, some of them, especially the autistic one, took things out on me, abusing me for no damn good reason, because they got zero attention from the mother, and they projected, basically felt like they could get attention from me, that's why they picked on me. And it's rather strange as well, because once I was told to supervise a disabled girl at this church place thing, and she wasn't actually that much younger than me, but she was disabled. She might have been in the same age group, I don't know. And this was yet another church in another country, and I remember being horrified because this girl suffered from Down syndrome. I went through a phase where I really hated disabled people because I always felt like I was attacked by disabled people. Like, I always felt like I was attacked even by disabled people in schools. I felt like I was attacked by the outcast in schools. The red-haired kids would bully me, the fat kids would bully me, the kids with glasses would reject me. Basically, the kids who are obviously being bullied and rejected, the minorities who are called the N-word, basically, in a school where all the kids are white except me, then they take it out on me because I was like, what, the weird neutral mixed race kid or something, so I was like considered white to them. I noticed like minority kids, if they're black, like, I had weird as well, because it's just like, the teachers always wanted to pair me with the minority kid for some strange reason every single school I went to. And I was fine with that. I think it was for language help, because when I was in the UK, this kid who was transferred from Africa spoke French as a first language, and I was there to be his buddy, basically, because I spoke French and I could help him. And it was really sad as well, because I hoped he'd communicate with me, and he was black as well, and basically he was the only... Yeah, he was the only black kid in the school, and the minority kid apart from me. And I think I noticed one thing is, like, I was being, if there was a school and there was zero minorities, some kids, I remember one time a boy for no reason at all kicked me in the area that would be the equivalent of nuts. Basically, I got kicked in the crotch and called a fucking packy. Basically, you're told to go back to my own country. This boy is quite racist anyway, and it's happened so many times by different boys in different schools where they get so angry at me, and they'd call me these names, and I didn't go up to them and start attacking them. Like, I was friendly to them, like, I was friendly to, like, I wasn't like super obsessed about being friendly, but I was a mute at this point. And this was another school where there were no minorities except this black kid who's transferred. I think there was a Filipino kid as well who's transferred. Foreign exchange, not foreign exchange student, but it was kind of like that. And I was in year 6. And yeah, this boy, he, unfortunately, I don't know if it was Nigerian, I can't remember, but he was, it's called Christian, I think, but it was meant to be like the French version. I got really upset because he basically started kicking me and stabbing me. He kicked me on the table and started stabbing me with pencils. And again, I was a really quiet kid. Like, I don't understand, like, I'd been homeschooled for a while, I'd been transferred to another school, I'd been beaten up by... I don't understand, like, maybe I was socially inept. I don't remember doing anything to be mean to him. Actually, it's like the more friendly I was to him, the more he got annoyed at me. And I actually hoped he'd be my friend. And I thought, if he wasn't going to be my friend, at least make some friends. Like, he had no one to talk to, so I thought, okay, I'll ignore it the first time round, then the second time round. And it got to the point where I wasn't allowed to tell the teacher that so-and-so, this kid was kicking me under the table because the teacher cut me halfway through and told me I was racist. Well, that's inappropriate. And I remember thinking, race was never the topic in the first place. Like, but I noticed a lot of middle-class white teachers of an old generation seem to mistake, like, basically abuse from minorities as basically a sign that I'm racist. Like, I don't get that. And that same school as well, I was really sad because there was a girl who transferred to that school as well. I don't know, like, it was really weird. I think it was like a private school or something. I can't remember. I don't know. They had like a few foreign students basically that weren't from England, and for some strange reason I was like lumped as the I mean, even if I wasn't, I think I would have happily taken that role of being the buddy classmate thing. There's this girl who came from Estonia, and apparently, I don't know if they'd gone through a war, but they had a lot of poverty or something. I did research on this, and they're going through a rough patch. Estonia, basically in year 2000, the 90s, early 2000s, I don't know. And this girl I met, and I wondered if she was either starved, neglected, or actually anorexic, but I don't remember her throwing up. She was like all bones, and she had the most amazing grey eyes and blonde hair, but her hair was like really fine blonde hair, so it's kind of almost frizzy. It's like white blonde. Her skin was almost like transparent. She had invisible eyebrows. I don't know, like she had like grey eyes, and I'd never seen anybody with grey eyes. I thought it was cool. But anyway, just like this girl, I know it sounds awful, but I can't remember her name. I think I purposely blanked out her name because maybe she hurt my feelings too much. Because I remember, because I already had friends, I was friends with this boy, that he lived nearby me. Like, we used to call each other old chap, for some strange reason. Like, I was going through a weird tomboy phase, or something. We did football together. In this club, we both like Harry Potter. I'd go over to his place and play on his PlayStation. He knew my parents did not allow me to have a PlayStation, so he'd let me play on his PlayStation, whilst like he would go play Harry Potter on the PC. Like, he played a PC version of some games, and I'd play the same game on PlayStation, or we'd take turns and swap. And I thought that was really sweet of him, because like he knew I did not have video games, and he knew my family were a bit like a bunch of kooks, I guess. Like, he said, your family are weird, like I've never met a family with so many kids. And even all I could say is when I was 8, because I met him at church basically, and then I ended up going to the same school as him, because I was homeschooled for a bit, but I kind of luckily had him as a friend when I was being homeschooled, and he lived nearby, so I was very possessive of him, I guess, because my brother always kept saying that he was his friend because he's a boy, and things like that. I used to be like, no, he's my friend, not because he's a boy, but because he's in the same year as me, we have stuff in common, like, you can be friends with him too, but it's just like, you can't own him, my friend, just because he's a boy, you know. It's just like, what the hell? And I think we did martial arts. No, we didn't do martial arts together, but he did judo, and then, like, it's weird because my parents went through a really short phase where, I don't know if they're trying to impress the parents of this kid or something, or they're trying to compete in a sort of friendly way. I don't know what friendly is. But then after that, my parents decided, oh, maybe I should do martial arts. So at one point I did martial arts, and he was doing martial arts too. And we would pretend, it's kind of cool actually. I had a lot of good experiences with a few childhood friends, even if, like, if it weren't, and that was weird, but I think if it weren't for me, I don't think they would had any female friends that basically would have been there. Like, I guess I was the only, like, female friend that I didn't mess around with, like, if that makes sense, except in a sort of innocent way, like, just being one of the boys, kind of. I also had a childhood friend, who's a friend of the family, has nothing to do with school, but just coincidentally, his parents were very close to my grandparents, so this boy who's, like, the same age as me, every time I'd go on holiday to France or family events, I'd always be, like, matched up to have, I don't know, just play with him, basically, this boy I knew in France, since basically birth. Unfortunately, he was a really sweet kid, but we didn't really have much in common in that. He was into martial arts and sports, and I don't know, like, when he, like, hit his teenage years, when I was living in France, I was, like, thinking, you're not the one, you're not the one, like, you shave your head, and you have a crush on me, which is sweet. And I remember, again, I'm going off point, but there's another child friend, and he's, like, big brown eyes, like, he looked kind of like I wouldn't say he looked like a Jersey cow, because that would be weird. But some cows, you know how, like, they have Jersey cows, if you look at photos of them, they have, like, these huge eyes, and their heads, it's kind of emo, except he had a bowl cut, so he kind of looked, too pretty to be a boy, like, I don't know, like, and then he shaved his hair off when I moved to France, when I was a teenager, and I really wish I'd basically just gone against my parents' wishes, because my mother was always having to separate me from him, because I was basically the only child that it's weird, I think I became one of the boys with my other childhood friends when I was like 10 years old or older, because it was too risky experimenting with boys or playing doctor or doing things like that, because I remember as young as 2, 3, 4 years old, my mother would always constantly try to separate me from play fighting with my child friend, and to be honest, I wouldn't have minded if, well, I did stupid kid things with the opposite gender, because how else am I supposed to guess? And I really liked him, but yeah, I was really upset that basically I learned from a young age that boys aren't safe and all that, and, like, I remember my mother would literally have to, like, pry me off him, or pry him off me, and I got really upset because I was given timeouts all the time at my grandparents, because his mother would drop him off at my grandparents, and they lived in a massive 200-year-old, I guess you could say, mansion, where they found poisoned Roman arrows underneath, because my grandfather was obsessed about history, and he had a metal detector, and he found Roman coins, and he found poison arrows from the Roman Empire, and I'm curious what happened to them now, because since they passed away and all that. I'm really sad, actually. Like, I used to look at those poison arrows that was sort of, like, put in a wooden thing, like, because my grandfather did carpentry and all kinds of things. That was above the fireplace, and I was just like, I wonder if it's still poisonous. My mother said never touch them, and I didn't dare touch them, because there's still remnant poison that probably could. I don't see how, because it's so old, but I don't want to take the risk. And that was really, really, really cool. Where I lived in France, they had lots of Roman relics as well. They had the Roman aqueduct too. It was so cool. But I don't want to go off point on a history rant and weird things I was exposed to, but basically I lived in the countryside essentially, and it was really amazing. Like, I don't know, there are lots of secret passages and what I called ancient trees and things like that, and everything seemed really mystical. So when I'd meet up with my church friend, like, I was literally half expecting fairies to be out of nowhere. I found salamanders once digging in dirt, and it looked like sort of sick green, but it looked so cool. I think I've tried googling things like that, and I have not seen things since then. And I was 6 years old, and I remember digging in dirt, in a mound of dirt or something that was like part of the field or garden that my grandparents had. And it was, this mound of dirt was separate from a field of cows or something. And it looked fascinating. It was just like, it was just there, and I had never seen anything like that. And even as an adult, I'll be honest, I don't think I've seen anything like that as well. And it was real. I ran indoors to my parents, who were probably having coffee with my grandparents, 6 years old. So, there's a freaking salamander, and I remember no one gave a shit. Like, that's one thing that really bothered me. Like, I was tugging on my mum's like sleeve, and she was just like annoyed that I'd interrupted her, and then I tugged on my dad's sleeve. If he even paid attention, I poked him. I'd freaking tried to get my granddad. I think I probably like tugged on, like, but he was like starting to go a bit old and crazy. I mean, he'd been going old and crazy since forever, because in his last years he thought he'd been to the moon and saw plants on the moon. Oh, just he'd seen the dark side of the moon. I think it's all those like books, conspiracy books, like that neither the Russians, the Soviet Union, the Chinese, or the American space station had heard of. Basically mysteries of the dark side of the moon, or just other things like lost history, such as Moo. He had all kinds of books. He had, my grandfather, basically a room that was a library, a legit library, with a, like, he even built a bookshelf on top of an old broken piano. And it was like a wall, so it looked like the piano was stuck into the wall. It was so cool, and I wish before they died, like, I was 18 years old, I wish I had, like, filmed it. I wish I had, like, it was just amazing. I even nagged, like, a boyfriend, my best friend. I was literally offering friends, I was saying, like, you can have a free holiday, everything paid for, just please come, just please. I asked everyone, my now current boyfriend, but he wasn't available. It was rather sad, because, like, I spent a month alone. Kind of had a feeling it was the last time I'd see them. At 18 years old, I was like, so foreboding feeling. But anyway, the house and the gardens, and like, he even built a sort of secret garden thing. Oh my god, it was amazing. Like, I don't know, like, the experiences I had as a kid would, like, revel stuff in books, basically. It's that crazy. Just, I don't know. And that boy, he, yeah, we had a lot of memories together. Like, it's weird, because I thought we were meant to be, like, together forever when I was a kid. I was really optimistic about that. And then I grew up, and even when I was a teenager, I realised we don't really have much in common. I still kind of had a crush on him, I think, because he was at my grandparents' like, wedding anniversary. I went on holiday to, like, you had, like, diamond or something. I don't know, like, for each decade you've been together, like, you have different materials to represent your anniversary. I don't know if it's like this in the UK. Diamond anniversary? I don't know, they've been together for so long. And everyone was invited. It felt like a whole village, practically. And he was there, and it was annoying because he was shorter than me, I think, while I was wearing heels. I cannot remember. I think he joined the military too. It's kind of sad. But it's weird, because I always hoped, like, oh, I hope he finds, like, nice girlfriend or something like that, but he seemed kind of, I don't want to say like dumb, I'm like so judgmental, but it's just like I don't see how, I don't know. He looked like a bit like a rodent, and I don't say that as a bad thing. Like, some people just look like certain animals. I don't know if that makes sense. So, looking back, I realized that I was forbidden basically getting too close to boys. So instead I just learned to be one of the boys, I suppose, as a safe resort. I just realized this video is way too long, but this girl, back to this other the school I was in the UK, and I was in year 6. I think this friendship with one boy I met, and we knew each other in school. Like, we were basically what I'd consider best friends, the closest equivalent, considering the gender difference. In a platonic way, people thought we fancied each other. Maybe he did, maybe I did too. But we'd always like do in a sort of joking way, just like, yeah, we're best friends, like, no, we're old chaps. And it made no sense at all because I did not look like an old chap. And I don't know why we called each other old chap. It made no sense at all. And this girl, I think she got jealous of like maybe being super close as boy, or maybe she liked him. I don't know. I doubt she liked him though. But it would have been kind of cute actually if she did like him and then they got together. I don't know. So I was like really open-minded about that. Like, I actually hoped he was gonna get a girlfriend, so it just like kind of, so rumors would stop that we liked each other. Maybe I did like him, but I was such, like, I don't really, I guess my being into boys phase was like a delayed phase, but I knew who I liked, and unfortunately I liked the boys who didn't like me, which were usually rude boys, like this redhead boy who stomped on my foot for a dance school recital where we'd have to dance to 1970s crappy music, and I was paired up with him, and I remember him saying, "Oh God, no!" Like, "Oh God, no!" Just like, I don't want, not you, because nobody else was paired up with me, and the teacher just like shoved me and him together, this redhead boy or something, and I was really annoyed. Like, I was really annoyed. He just like literally glared at me and he stomped on my foot when we were like practicing. And I was a quiet kid, like maybe I just looked really, and he kept saying I was ugly, I think, other times. I don't know if it was that time too. I even think he said like nobody will like you. I remember being around some kids who are so mean to me, they come up to me, say things like, nobody wants you, like nobody wants to be around you, so I just like fuck off. So I did fuck off, like, because that's all I knew. I would then eat my lunches in the bathroom, to which girls thought I had eating disorders, because in the 90s it was really trendy to pretend or actually have an eating disorder, and there were 10-year-old girls making themselves puke. That's disgusting. And I didn't. I just hid in the bathroom, to be left alone, in a disabled toilet. There was no irony, and I don't think the film Mean Girls had even come out yet, because, and there's a scene where she basically sits in the toilet. That shit happened. I don't know if anybody realizes that, but stuff like that happened. Like, insane stuff does happen outside Hollywood, and nobody believes it. So anyway, at the same school, this girl who was from Estonia, I think she was being neglected by her parents. Her parents were really weird because they made her wear like clothes like a stripper or something. There was something very, very wrong. She was 10 years old, and I was like, she had no friends. She couldn't be friends with the other girls because people thought she was too skinny or ugly or anorexic, and I thought that was cruel. So I was friends with her, and I was also part of this buddy system where I had to guide her around. I think also like this black boy from Nigeria, I think, and I basically managed to get rejected by another kid in the same year, in only 1 year of attending that school, even though I just kept to myself generally. I think, like, basically we had to do a project where we had to vote ourselves on a friend to basically be a representative for the class. Now, I voted for my friend, this guy, instead of this girl, and I felt really bad because I only had one vote, and I spent days and hours scrutinizing, should I vote for her or for him? And now looking back, even I was being logical, like in a sort of diplomatic, political sense, I thought it would make more sense if that boy was elected because he had more experience. It's not because he had more experience, he was a very reasonable kid, he acted quite mature for his age. Sometimes he'd stay in and just read, and like he liked things like chess and all that. And this girl, like, I wanted her, basically. I wanted to vote for her, but I didn't vote for her. And as a result, because I didn't vote for her, she stopped talking to me. Like, even months later, I think, we're talking through Christmas, like, months later, I gave her a Christmas card, saying sorry, like some sparkly Christmas card. I didn't even say sorry, I just gave her a Christmas card. I can't remember, maybe I did say sorry, in the Christmas card. And I remember writing in sort of fountain pen, like some nice stuff. And I hoped that maybe she'd forgive me, basically. And this was months later. We're talking, like, again, by kids' standards, time goes very, very slow. I don't know, time just felt like it went slow. And so I gave her a Christmas card, and then she threw it in my face. She threw it in my face. Or she threw it across the room. And I think after that, devastated, because that school I went to, even though it's only for a year, even though I knew that boy from outside of school, not the same boy as a childhood friend I knew since birth in France, but like, he was there when I had no friends, when I wasn't in school. He was always calm. He was just there, basically. And he's probably still there if I were to contact him, which would be kind of weird because I'm sure he's got a girlfriend by now, and I don't know if we have much in common. And I bet he's like 4 foot tall too, as well, because, like, I don't know why, but all the kids I liked, well, as friends or otherwise, I used to be the shortest kid in school, always. Then I went through a growth spurt, and years later I ended up being taller than some guys, so that's not fun. Like, I don't know why I care so much, but I don't know, maybe I would like him, but yeah. But yeah. And that girl, I'm worried because, like, I'm not even sure. I think she was in the school book photos, but I don't know what happened to her. It's like she vanished. I'm not even sure if she even stayed the entire year. Like, I hope that girl's still alive, basically, because she was severely underweight. She didn't eat food. And it's weird because people thought I had an eating disorder and I was anorexic until she came around, and then all of a sudden she kind of became, I guess, the butt of jokes. Like, she'd wear high heels and her bones were jutting out, and the girls would laugh at her, and I thought that's, like, disgustingly cruel because, like, she obviously came from a country. I didn't know anything about Estonia at 10 years old, but I knew something wasn't right. I think my parents might have said something about Estonia. Like, I think she literally looked like she had PTSD, like, she was like just traumatized, like either she'd been abused or something. And that boy as well, that black boy, I'm more annoyed about him because, like, I feel like within a few years he would have adapted, and he already was able to speak English. Like, I guess I'm more annoyed at him because, like, because he hit a girl, like, and even though I'm not annoyed at him for that, the teacher, like, cut me off straight away because the teacher didn't want to deal with it, me being attacked, even though I was part of the buddy system, which I find rich because I was the last kid that would go up to a teacher. It's not like I was going up to the teacher every 2 minutes being a tattletale. I didn't want to be that kid. I was just shocked by the indifference, the coldness, and he refused to give me eye contact and just shut me out. So I felt like a door had slammed in my face, basically. Like, same with that girl when she threw my card in my face or towards me, or the end of the classroom glaring at me because I didn't choose her for a vote or thing, even though I wanted to, because I picked this boy instead. I ended up, it's weird as well, because I ended up being a loner and I didn't have any female friends as well, really, for the most part. This other girl I knew, but she already had loads of friends, and I noticed she was nice to me when she wasn't with other girls who didn't accept me, but she accepted me. This other girl, just like nice. I think she was Jewish. I don't know. Like, but anyway, like, she was nice to me though. She was nice to me, this other girl. I'm not going to mention her too much. It's weird as well because her parents, like her mother, when she met my parents for a dinner party, I noticed she flirted with my dad, and she left her husband to find a brown man, essentially. And like the difference, I noticed that, that's another story for another time and probably a bit boring, but she basically moved to Morocco, some Muslim country basically, because I don't know, this woman had a midlife crisis. I think she had a breakdown, and I think she liked my dad or something. And my mother noticed that she was flirting in front of my dad, and then she ran away with the daughter and went to a country where she had to adapt to said country. And I found out that she's, yeah, just like, I think she's living in France now, which is odd. I think she has a kid too, I'm not sure. But yeah, just, it's weird how I noticed this family got this perfectly normal, nice family. The dad was nice, the mum was nice. I noticed this family kind of get sort of torn apart around the time I started interacting with my family, which I thought was strange. Very strange, disturbing, and I basically lost a friend. But it's weird because this mother divorced her husband and moved to a foreign country, French-speaking country, but not France necessarily. Within a year of my family moving to France, which I just find weird. So I basically ended up living a sort of kind of parallel life to this girl, sort of. Like, she was forced to join a religion, whilst I was forced to join a sort of cult-like religion, as in the Christian denomination. She almost got married under that to somebody in that religion. I think I don't know, and her story is very similar to mine, but I noticed it seemed like it had been artificially created by a mother who basically, I don't know, went crazy. But aside that girl, I feel guilty talking about these things because this video has gone on way too long now, and it's one of many events. I'm obviously purposely brushing over some more traumatic things and concentrating and fixating on some things in no particular order, except the school I went to, where I became quiet most of the story in year 6, because I'd been homeschooled for 2 years, so I was quiet anyway. And prior to that, I'd been beaten up severely to the point I blacked out in a school, this other school, and then I felt rejected because I basically got rejected by even the rejects. And why did I call them rejects? I didn't reject them, I didn't treat them any different. In fact, I wanted them to be my friend. I wanted them to make friends. I wanted them to have friends and be included and not feel like an outcast. And even they rejected me, and that hurt, basically. That hurt that I had a letter, a card with an apology or some nice things written in it thrown at me. Like, I actually think I became even more depressed then. Like, so I've noticed rejection is essentially a theme in my life, where I've basically been rejected, wrongly accused a few times as well, slandered, or been in the midst of miscommunication that has nothing to do with race, that has nothing to do with racism, but simply a miscommunication, or just simply people don't get on, and then being racially ambiguous and having white people project onto me Christian people project onto me, and then minority people project onto me, and non-Christian people project onto me, because I was considered too white to non-white people, and I noticed the way they acted, it's as if they were basically jealous. I don't say jealous though, like this is what other people have told me, at least in my family maybe, or something. So I might have a completely warped view, and I don't know, and I felt like kind of fetishized by some white people repeatedly calling me silly names, like this girl in France, this other girl who wanted to be best friends with me, kept buying Indian themed stuff and asking me what I thought of it, and even though it was cute, I was annoyed, and I kept saying to her, like, I don't speak Indian. Indian is like a sort of continent. They speak over 100 languages, of different religions. I was not born in India. I cannot tell you all this information basically based on my skin color and name, and I knew nothing, and that was another topic. And I remember when I was in college, I knew these girls from my English class. I'm going to go back to that real quick. They knew one British-born Chinese girl. She wasn't even in our English class. And it wasn't her name, but they called her China. Then a new girl started attending this college, also not in English class. And halfway through the year after, and like I noticed both these girls, I noticed they kind of liked me though, maybe because I don't think I put them in a racial box. I just talked to them like human beings. I guess that's the difference. I thought they were really cool people, and I really wanted to be friends with them too, but I never kind of got close enough, I guess. Like, I don't know. I tried. But anyway, this other girl, she was called China V or China 2, things like that. And I thought it was rather racist, basically, to call this girl China, and then another girl a year later, who was also British-born Chinese, China number 2, basically. I just thought, like, and they just took it. They just sat there with. I sometimes wondered, did they take it? Were they secretly dying on the inside or embarrassed? But all I know is that I thought it was rather inappropriate. That's like going around and calling somebody that's originally whose ancestors or great grandparents who are from India or Africa, calling them Africa, calling them India. Like, it's, unless the person is happy with that, I don't think they'd be happy with that, because why would somebody who's born 3 generations in, knows nothing about their country of origin, even if they do, it's just, I don't know, it's just, and I've noticed it's usually the more liberal, open-minded, middle-class English people. I think it's a form of naivety they instill on people with like this false giving a shit, false caring. And even if you do care, for the love of God, don't start labeling people. Don't assume anything. If there's a fight between a white person and a minority person, it's not always about race. It's not always about racism. Like, it's like the, you know, like some, I've heard of stereotypes of like, not all men do this, but when a white man dates an Asian woman, don't assume he's fetishizing her, and don't assume, like, and again, if you're the white person dating a minority, I mean, for the love of God, just stop fetishizing. It's just sick, basically. I personally find that it's just like, it's not like, yeah, we're different. I'm not gonna say we're all exactly the same, but I just think it's wrong on so many levels. So yeah, this video, I guess, I don't know what I'm gonna call this. Like, if anybody's even going to care to even watch this, but basically it's about experiences of rejection, childhood experiences. Again, maybe I'm going over the topic of emotional neglect, the shadow self, being racially ambiguous, yeah, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm sorry if this video is all over the place, but if you listen to this, then thank you, I guess. So yeah.